Good evening and welcome to the May 15, 2023 regular meeting of the Mayor and Council. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to invite Nathan Bassett to the podium to come lead us in the pledge, and if everyone could please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Nate. I would just point out as Nate walks away that this is his final public meeting with the city of Gaithersburg. He's gotten a great opportunity elsewhere, and we're going to miss him, and we appreciate his service, and so thank you very much, Nate. Next item on our agenda is reflection, and we are going to have a moment of silence. I just want to point out to everyone that during this moment of silence, I will be thinking about it being Book Festival week in the city of Gaithersburg. I don't know if anybody else is going to be thinking about that, but yes, let's have a moment of silence. Thank you all very much. Frankly, I could have gone on with a longer moment of silence because this is a time of excitement and anxiety. But mostly excitement. We're going to focus on the excitement tonight. Next on our agenda, we have the approval of minutes. One set of minutes before us, and that's from last week, work session on Monday, May 8th. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries 4-0. Next item on our agenda is appointments, and tonight we have several appointments and reappointments. What is the pleasure of the council?
All right, Mr. Mayor, I will move the resolution of the City Council confirming appointments and reappointments made by yourself as follows. To the Gaithersburg Parks, Arts, and Recreation Corporation, a 3-year term to Paula Ross to represent the business community, term to expire May 2026. And for the following reappointments: to the Board of Appeals for a 3-year term, David Bellegarde of Washingtonian Woods, Robert Chiswell of Pheasant Run, Aaron Kotok of Lakelands, all terms to expire in May of 2026. To the Cultural Arts Advisory Committee, a 2-year term, to Cassandra Redding of the Boonesboro Community, Kalisha Thorpe Price of Montgomery Village, both terms to expire in May of 2025. And finally, to the Educational Enrichment Committee, a 2-year term, to Alyssa Tadaro Krumloff of Woodland Hills, term to expire in May of 2025.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Is there anybody here whose name we just called? I don't think so. Okay, we're going to have to thank them when we see them. As always, getting involved in the city committee is a great way to learn more about how the city operates and contribute meaningfully to the business of the city. So, and it's fun, and you meet people with common interests. So, next on our agenda is presentations, and I'd like to invite our lobbying team to the podium. Teresa Hessler, Sarah Peters, Tony Perez from AGR, Ashlar Government Relations, and we're grateful to see you guys here, and always happy to have you.
And we're happy to be here. Good evening, Mayor Ashman and members of the council. For the record, my name is Teresa Hessler, CEO of Ashlar Government Relations, and joined with me this evening is Ms. Sarah Peters and Mr. Tony Perez, here to present on the 2023 legislative session. So the 2023 legislative session was the first session that Ashlar Government Relations, also known as AGR, represented the city of Gaithersburg and Annapolis. With legislative priorities already in place, we went to work on your behalf. First, by arranging introductory meetings with all of the elected officials representing the city. This was an especially important since redistricting just happened, and we expanded the city's legislative representation. AGR and the city used these opportunities to share the city's priorities and to determine if there were other district-specific priorities that the city could support or advocate for. Then, not too long after, session began on January 11th and brought a ton of new faces to Annapolis. Not only was this the first session for many, we had over 40 new members and still kind of growing throughout session as appointments were made. We had a new governor for the first time in 8 years. We had a new comptroller and a new attorney general. Then, in like all new administrations, we had departmental changes, and many were interested in joining those administrative changes. Those who transitioned included Delegate Resnick, who was appointed to the Maryland Department of Health Human Services. His seat was then later filled by community leader Greg Wims. Then Montgomery County Delegate and Chair of the House Environment and Transportation Committee, Kumar Barve, was appointed to a 5-year term to the Public Service Commission. There were also several other changes among Montgomery County elected officials, including Delegate Lupke, who was among the first to be appointed to the office of the governor, overseeing the governor's legislative priorities. Then Susan Lee was also appointed to serve as Secretary of State. Many expressed interest in her Senate seat, but ultimately Delegate Ariana Kelly successfully secured Central Committee vote and sits on Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee. The Montgomery County delegation was also appointed new leadership, which included Delegate Palovich Carr to serve as the chair. These changes are anticipated to be the first of many to come, especially with United States Senator Cardin announcing he would not seek re-election. Many have already announced their candidacy, including Congressman David Trone and Montgomery County Councilman Joanne Doe. Montgomery County Delegate Joe Vogel has also announced his candidacy for the congressional seat, and other Montgomery County delegates are rumored to be interested. AGR will continue to update the city on these developments and the impact on the city and their priorities. This year, there were over 2,275 bills put in and 780 legislative bond initiatives introduced. A lot of the focus was on the governor's priorities this year that he would spearhead, including accelerating the minimum wage to increase $15 by January 1st, 2024, developing a service year option, and providing health care benefits to veterans, among others. High priorities among the General Assembly included passing legislation that would outline the licensing and regulatory framework for adult use cannabis, which was a priority for voters during the November election. Equally as important to legislators were passing legislation for victims of child sexual abuse. As the session progressed through 90 days, the city and AGR met weekly and discussed almost daily the impact and status of specific legislation. This included the city's own priorities, which were as follows: advocating for legislation or priorities that enhance MARC service on the Brunswick and Camden lines. This seemed to be a broad interest across the state and certainly in the region to expand MARC service. We recommend that we continue having these conversations about expanding MARC in the interim to restate our continued interest and believe the city is in line with most decision makers on this issue. Our second priority was removing requirements for the city post certain notice requirements in a newspaper of general circulation. Many municipalities agree with the city that they would like to see public notice requirements be altered or reduced. We are currently already working with the Maryland Municipal Attorneys Association to determine whether they are interested in introducing the legislation this coming year in 2024. In addition, we would like that the city collect internal data as we can continue to develop a strategy and craft next steps, as we anticipate this conversation and priority will span several years. And lastly, advancing legislation to allow municipalities to set up and operate their own police accountability boards. This bill was introduced in a priority for the Maryland Municipal League, so the city became a partner in their advocacy. There's a clear understanding among the General Assembly members that some municipalities should have their own police accountability boards from the beginning in place of the county. Decision makers always also believed that the county's police accountability boards have not had sufficient time to demonstrate the current board's work. We will continue to monitor these efforts and have conversations as the past legislation gets implemented across the state, and we will continue to work with MML on this issue to track progress. Now I will turn over to Sarah to share some of our other legislative priorities of importance to the city.
So wait, that's not all. There was other bills we were interested in, and while they weren't at the top of our list when it came to priorities, there was a lot of bills we wanted to monitor because who knows, amendments could have been tacked on that impact the city and other municipalities. There was legislation that we were interested in that didn't help us in the way that we wanted to see it help us. And so I will just sort of go through and pick some of the bills that I know we actively worked on quite a bit. So feel free to follow me if you have any questions, ask them. So this next section, other legislation of importance to the city. These are bills that both passed and failed. I note some of the ones that failed because, let's be honest, chances are it could be introduced next session. You could see a priority here that failed, and you're like, oh, you know what? This would have actually helped us quite a bit. It might be something you want to pursue next session. So as I go through the list, Transit-Oriented Development Enhancement Act, we supported that. That's a no-brainer. Of course, we want to prioritize TOD. Second one, I tell you, was not one that I initially thought was a priority for the city, but it would create regulatory powers to control invasive species bamboo. And as originally drafted, it actually only gave that authority to counties. And so as AGR, we went to the bill sponsor and said, hey, we represent the city of Gaithersburg. They do have an invasive species of bamboo that has been a problem. Therefore, we'd like the same regulatory power. And so she very graciously amended the bill to assist us. And so we did have an advocate from the city testify at the hearing. There was also another bill that looked at prohibiting liability agreements at recreational facilities, and as introduced by the stakeholders, it did not give an exemption to governmental facilities, and so we did consult some folks, and they said, yes, we're happy to take care of that. I'm not going to go on about this bill because the bill ultimately failed, but I did want to bring it to your attention. This next one, which is the County Municipal Street Lighting Investment Act, I tell you, this probably isn't a new title you've heard because it's been introduced for many, many, many years. But like many years, I don't know that we fully expected it to move, but it did move this year. It moved from the House over to the Senate, and Teresa with AGR did testify. It ultimately failed in the Senate, though. And so if that continues to be a priority for the city, we can use the interim to continue those conversations. I'll continue down here, going to page 7. House Bill 723, Natural Resources, Forest Preservation and Retention. We worked with the city to facilitate a meeting with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, who was one of the lead stakeholders behind this bill. Long story short, we had some concerns about it and how, if passed, it would be implemented in a urban area and jurisdiction like City of Gaithersburg. And so we did pass along those concerns. Ultimately, MML sort of gave their blessing and in support of it, and so ultimately, the bill sort of moved as is, but we've been rest assured that continued concerns, we can go to the foundation and to the sponsors and convey those, and if there's other ways in which to mitigate any of those concerns in regulation or otherwise, they'd be happy to discuss it. Continuing on, there was a Voting Rights Act bill that we anticipate having conversations in the interim about. We have some just procedural concerns and as it relates to authority of local jurisdictions. Continuing on, on page 10, you'll see a number of bills that we supported. And dare I say, cannabis reform. Not a bill that we focused a ton on last time we were here for our mid-session report, but again, it was a priority for the state of Maryland that cannabis be passed and legalized. And our largest concern there is obviously what does regulating it look like for a jurisdiction like Gaithersburg, but also if it's going to be in your districts, what does the tax rate look like for you all, and are you going to see any of those dollars? Long story short, a lot of time and a lot of effort went into formulating these bills. And the House bill was a tax rate we liked. It was 9%. That bill then went over to the Senate, and the Senate reworked the tax rate where that it was a bit of a phase-in, and it went higher over time, I believe it was. Long story short, the bill it wasn't in the same posture in both chambers. So what happens is they form a conference committee, and so they worked it all out. And at the end of the day, what we saw was that flat 9% tax to go back to municipalities. And so that was a win for us, advocating that tax rate stay at the originally introduced 9%. So that's it. I mean, you can run through them and feel free to ask me any questions. A lot of them are grants. A lot of them are a lot of task force bills passed this year, and so happy to run through any of those. And then this next section was bills that we didn't come to the table on. We didn't offer any amendments. We didn't outright support, oppose, what have you. But this next list are those that have an impact on municipalities, so that passed. So I want to note them because at the end of the day, regulations will likely be promulgated. We're going to monitor those. We're going to advise of any potential impact. And in that way, we may be involved. In some of these enforcement, you might be involved. So I did want to bring those to your attention. And then I want to turn it over to Tony here to talk about the capital budget.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. Tony Perez. Well, I'll just talk a little bit about the budget and we had a couple bond bills or bills that we needed through the capital budget, and one was the Crown Farm Historic Park. We had success there. We were able to achieve $350 working with this team here, and also the Kelly Park field lighting. We were able to gain another $250,000 for the city. You know, we had good support from Senator King and Delegate, former Chairman Barvey, and we had Senator Kagan. Yeah, Senator Kagan. Yeah, so we got a lot of support, but the team will always continue to monitor the capital budget as we move forward. There are going to be things that the city needs, things that you obviously have interest in that we need to go back and maybe revisit and look at some new things, some new opportunities for the city. And we always start that around this time because it's important to find your sponsors, whatever, be it bond bill or any major capital budget request that you have, and the team will look forward to working with the mayor and the city. Thank you.
And thanks to you both. And in closing, our team is already looking forward. We're already looking at 2024. We're excited to start planning. We are looking to monitor anything that pops up in the Maryland Register as far as regulations go, update the city on proposed regulations, where we need to weigh in, if anywhere, and to be involved as necessary. This will become particularly important as cannabis regulations come in, as well as paid family leave, to just be aware of anything that might affect the city of Gaithersburg. AGR has also drafted a brief survey for the city to circulate among its departments to identify obstacles, inefficiencies, or costs because of regulations or statutory requirements, so that we can help use those to set our priorities. That data will help us really navigate the ever-changing political landscape. Like we mentioned, we know there's going to be changes coming still, and we will certainly keep everyone abreast of those as we learn them. And just thank you to you all. It's been a great first year, and we are very happy to be working hand in hand with each and every one of you.
Thank you guys for the presentation, and I do want to say that this has been our first year working together, and I've really felt that you guys have been strong partners I would expect on our legislative priorities, but it's gone beyond that. In fact, just recently we had an item that you guys flagged for us that I wouldn't have expected, and you were seeing it from an angle that I wasn't seeing it. So I really appreciate that. I really feel like you guys have gone the extra mile, and it's been a pleasure working with you. As we look forward to next year, I realize, you're like, it just ended. The session just ended. Can't we get a little break here? I'm sure there's going to be funding opportunities that we're interested in for the city. Obviously, our same legislative priorities. I think some progress was made. For example, we certainly got the ear of the Judiciary Committee or Judicial Proceedings on police accountability boards, and I think we made our point, and I think it resonated. I think the issue is the police accountability boards haven't been in effect long enough from their point of view to make a move on it, and so I get that, but I'm sure we're going to be back with that, and I'm sure we're going to be back with public notice, and I'm forgetting what the other one was, but I'm sure we're going to be back with that too. The one that crept up during the session that really sort of alarmed me was this Voting Rights Act of 2023, and not because there are some elements that seem like they're pretty good about this thing, but it strips municipalities of their authority to run their own elections. And then it weirdly says if there's any sort of issue that you have to you have to file it in court in Anne Arundel County as opposed to Montgomery County. It doesn't make sense. And that's definitely on my radar screen. I want to make sure that whatever, because I expect that bill to come back. I've heard from other people that bill's going to come back in some sort of evolved form. As it evolves, I definitely want to be in their ear about what this means for municipalities and how we can find a common ground there. So there's that, and certainly, we're pleased. The cannabis legislation is going to impact all the jurisdictions, and I think it's right. It's nothing but right that some of the sales tax that comes from the sale of cannabis comes to the local level, because our enforcement is going to have to deal with it. So it's going to be an adjustment, and I appreciate your work on that. So with that, Ryan, you next.
It's up to you, Mr.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me start by echoing all of your initial comments and your remarks. It's been a pleasure to work with you all. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to continued success. I realize nobody has a crystal ball on the economy, but it seemed to me, as a sort of a close observer of Annapolis, that this year, given all the federal dollars coming in from pretty landmark federal legislation, either COVID response legislation or infrastructure legislation or other legislation, that Annapolis had a moment where it was pretty flush with cash, and there was an opportunity for folks to advocate for important priorities and take advantage of that moment. I guess my question is there any early indication at this point of how much that's going to change next year? Is leadership saying the tap is run dry, or is it going to be more like a gradual reducing of the tap over the next few years, or do we think there's still lots of good opportunities to seek, whether it's line items in the budget for support of city projects, or whether it's bond bills or otherwise, or is it going to sort of go back to pre-flood of federal legislation dollars? So that's my question. Thank you.
So I think it certainly could go back to the pre-flood of COVID dollars. We did hear that it was going to be a little more conservative moving forward, and not just because of the lack of federal funding coming through COVID or ARPA, but due to just all the departmental changes, right? And there's a new budget process in Annapolis for the first time ever. So this year was a little bit of a weird year. Now, I will say, still going through the list, a lot of projects did get funded. We saw a lot of money in both the operating and capital budget. So it'll probably balance out at some point, but next year will give us certainly a better indication of what to expect, at least in the next couple of years.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for all of your work this legislative session. With Chairman Barve departing, what is the landscape looking like as far as the county's influence in Annapolis, and is that something that we should be concerned about?
Well, I'm hesitant to say anything on the record, but of course
Right.
there's names in the rumor mill, of which may or may not be Montgomery County. So we could still be in a very good position. But I think, listen, when it comes to such things as Mark, you're not alone. Gaithersburg isn't alone. Montgomery County isn't alone. I think most of the state agrees with your priority that it should be expanded. So I think we're still going to be in a good position there. I think your bond requests are they're rationalized. They're not outlandish requests. I think those will continue on even in the unknown of the budget, which as lobbyist, I'm going to be honest, bills that had a fiscal note over $250,000 needed approval before it could proceed, and I think $100,000 in the other chamber. Mm-hmm. We did feel that the forecasted revenues were dropping and folks were being a bit more conservative. So as the political landscape changes, of course priorities are going to change. I think we're going to see different types of legislation, but I think that more or less we're still going to be in line with the general intent and priorities of the General Assembly.
Great. Thank you.
Neil?
So a couple of things. First of all, on the cannabis front, the new laws were scheduled to take effect on July 1, is my understanding. Are they actually going to be ready for July 1 to move forward? And is there a way for us to get notice of what to expect in terms of new outlets here in Gaithersburg?
Yeah, so effective date, I have no reason to believe it would be anything other than that. I will say that as we talked about cannabis through the legislative session, that July 1 date was mentioned countlessly and that it was urgent that it be done. I will say I passed along information as it relates to a phasing in of licenses, if you will, and how that process would work. So feel free to consult Tom on that. But happy to also send more information your way. It's not as predictable, but it is a bit formulaic in how it's going to start, who's going to get it first, and then what that process looks like going forward.
All right, terrific.
Yeah, go ahead, Tanisha.
If I could just add that your city team is hard at work on fully analyzing all the impacts of the bill, from city ordinance changes for parks and rec and those sorts of things, as well as any potential zoning changes that we need to make. The most immediate option that could have impacted us on July 1 was that the bill allows for the conversion of medical marijuana locations to convert, and that can happen as of July 1. We had 2 licensed organizations in the city. Both licenses have expired or been terminated one way or the other, and so we don't have that conversion piece that will happen. Doesn't mean that over time we won't have other interests getting in the pipeline, and so that's why we want to get ahead and make sure that our city code is cleaned up and prepared.
Okay, and on the mark front, I know that there's nothing that's passed, but is the state thinking about some sort of funding mechanism for something like that? Because it's not cheap, and I know Virginia is moving forward at breakneck speed. They're moving ahead with a 3rd line, and now I've heard that they're looking at a 4th set of rails as well.
Yeah, so remember, this is an old age problem with Mark, where we don't own the rails, and so the MTA is like, hey, we want to prioritize passenger rail, but the owners of the tracks are prioritizing freight. And then it comes to money. Like, okay, if they agree to prioritizing passenger rail, how do we start paying for it? And if you'll remember, it wasn't the session we represented you, but the session before, Delegate Solomon and I want to say Senator Bidel off the top of my head introduced a sort of funding bill where it looks at advancing such transportation priorities and then puts a funding pot where that certain monies go there. I'll get you more information. But no, there was nothing this session, but I know it's been taken up in years past. But I will say during January is when the Brunswick line study came out, and we brought that all to your attention, and it was the comment period and what the expansion of Brunswick line could look like. I do know, or it seems as though it's an interest of this administration to advance SMART and to expand it. So all I can say is sort of stay tuned, and I think it's our advocacy and being upfront as to why constituents of yours need it is utmost important.
All right, thank you.
Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your work. It seems like this session, from my view, I can't imagine from yours, went lightning speed fast. So lots of bills and people running hard. So thank you for your work there. My questions also were regarding the cannabis bill, most of which Neil had asked. I am concerned about enforcement and amendments that we'll see along the way, as I think it's going to be a bit of trial and error here, as we stumble through this legislation to figure out, what works and what doesn't work, particularly I think in the enforcement realm. I mean, we understand how to deal with drunk driving. Yeah. We don't understand how to deal with high driving. So I think all of that we're still going to need to figure out through the legislation.
And I think most of those stakeholders would agree with you, and that they don't think this is a one and done, and it's going to take some changes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. We look forward to continuing our partnership.
Thank you.
And we will move on to our next item. And I will invite Kirk Eby to the podium or to the table and talk about a petition for our introduction of an annexation petition.
Okay, well, good evening, Mayor and City Council. So this is an introduction of the resolution for application X-9510-2023, which will authorize the annexation of the Walnut Hill commercial area. And as you can see on this aerial photo, the area to be annexed into the city of Gaithersburg is approximately 9.63 acres of land and it is within that black dashed line there on the map. It is adjacent to the existing city limits, corporate city limits. It includes one large parcel located on South Frederick Avenue, so that's where the main Walnut Hill Shopping Center is located. And then there are two smaller parcels here on North Westland Drive that are also included. In addition, there's a portion of the North Westland Drive right-of-way and the South Westland Drive right-of-way that would be included in the annexation. And this page is from the city's adopted municipal growth element, and it just shows that the area to be annexed here is within the maximum expansion limits, so it can be annexed. And this is the actual annexation plan. As I previously mentioned, the annexation area totals about 9.63 acres, most of which, again, is the main Walnut Hill Shopping Center parcel. In the county, all three of these parcels are currently zoned CRT-2.25, C-1.5, R-0.75, and H-45. So those are all code in the county for an overall floor-to-area ratio of 2.25, with the commercial floor-to-area ratio being limited to 1.5, the residential floor-to-area ratio being limited to 0.75, and the height being limited to 45 feet, I believe. And that zone in the county does allow a mix of commercial and residential development up to those limits that I had mentioned. So the applicant is requesting the city's C2 zoning for the main parcel, the Walnut Hill Shopping Center, and that is consistent with what the county zoning would allow there under the commercial part of the county zoning. And for the other two small parcels, the applicant is requesting the city's CD, or corridor development zone, and that again is consistent with the county's zoning, which is very similar to our CD zoning in many ways. So the applicant has met with city staff regarding an annexation agreement, and that agreement would be introduced during the mayor and city council's policy discussion should the annexation move forward after tonight. And so the annexation agreement would likely address those items that are shown here on the slide. So some improvements to the shopping center, assurances for this proposed new development they are seeking on the property, an overall parking ratio for the shopping center, and allowing the annexation plan to also serve as a concept site plan, which will save them a little bit of time going forward to the next stage after annexation. So, next steps. So should the mayor and council wish to proceed with the annexation petition, staff can tentatively schedule the public hearing for Monday, September 5th, 2023. And following that public hearing, the Planning Commission would likely make their recommendation sometime in July. The County Planning Board hopefully would be able to review the annexation prior to August. And if that should hold true, then the mayor and city council would be able to hold their policy discussion in October. And then the annexation, of course, would become effective 45 days later, so sometime in November or December of this year. And that is all of my presentation. So ready for you guys to hopefully make a motion to accept the resolution and move forward.
Thank you very much, Kurt. So this is really just an introduction. Any questions or comments, or would someone like to go ahead, Neil?
So I've already been through two separate meetings of the Economic Development Committee where the applicants have presented their plans. The committee itself, I believe, drafted a memo, which I don't see it in the packet, but it may be here somewhere.
It just came today, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately, that memo did come a little late, so it's not in this introduction packet. However, again, should this move forward, it certainly will be an exhibit in the record.
But at any rate, for those who haven't read the memo yet, it's very favorable toward the applicant's plan for this, and I've heard from folks in the neighborhood that like the idea, especially the fact that they'll get a grocery store, which has been sorely lacking in that vicinity for quite a while. So on that basis, I'd like to go ahead and move the resolution.
Second.
Can I just make a note that the hearing would be on Tuesday, September 5th, because of the Labor Day holiday.
The
Good
date's
point.
correct, the day is wrong.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of introducing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate that. Next item on our agenda is public comments. This is the time the mayor and council like to hear from anybody who'd like to speak on any topic that's not a public hearing topic. And actually, we do not have public hearings tonight, so any city-related topic, we ask that you state your name and address or neighborhood if you feel more comfortable. Keep your comments no more than 3 minutes. Do we have anybody who'd like to speak? Come on up.
Hello, I'm Carl Van Est. I live at 52 Reading Ridge Drive in Gaithersburg. Thank you for making time for me today. I'm proud to live in the greatest city in the United States. In a previous session, we discussed the new housing at the Nike site. I want to weigh in again on this. As you know, we have a housing shortage in Maryland to the tune of about 120,000 units. And the Nike site was proposed for several hundred units. I believe, and the Muddy Branch Alliance does too, that we should work to fulfill their building plan for 2 reasons. One, we need more housing. One reason why housing is so expensive is because we have such a limited supply. Kumar Barve at our recent District 17 wrap-up mentioned this, and he's right. We're going to need to build higher to house everyone and to help satisfy our forest constraints. As an environmentalist that testified at the meeting mentioned, the location is also a good one for full development. It's in walking distance to stores and parks. It's close to mass transit via I-370. No one is going to be happy about having more neighbors nearby, but traffic and congestion doesn't have to be a nightmare if we plan interconnections and support buses to and from key locations. If you can safely cross Muddy Branch, it is a safe bike ride down School Drive through Malcolm King Park to Rio. Likewise, a short bike ride gives these residents access to the Kentlands. These interconnections need to be addressed for the project to be a good one. If we had a nicer bus station, maybe on Diamondback Drive, maybe more residents would take the metro also. Secondly, the Muddy Branch Alliance and 350 of our neighbors would like you to push our legislators to support salt tracking at all jurisdictions throughout Maryland in terms of total salt used and pounds per single lane mile. Last year, Gaithersburg put down about 1,000 pounds per single lane mile. Seems like a lot. It is a lot. Montgomery County put down 2,000 pounds. Rockville put down 3,000 pounds. That's a lot of salt. Nobody knows how much salt's getting put down throughout the area. Salt is a pollutant. Putting down salt in parks during a snow emergency, it's a bad thing. We need to track this sort of thing. These people right here could help. And as you all know, 350 members signed a petition, some of you, to limit salt in terms of pounds per single lane mile. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl. Do we have any other testimonies here in the room? Otherwise, I'm going to take a look on Zoom. If there's anybody on Zoom who'd like to testify, use the Zoom raise hand function, and I will call on you. And we have one hand up I can see. Tech team, if you can bring up Mike Sesma, that would be great. Mike, state your name, address, or neighborhood, and go right ahead.
Good evening, Council. My name is Mike Sesma. I'm a resident of West Riding. My remarks today focus on a couple of things, but kind of a reminder. When I first ran for re-election in 2005, one of the issues I was concerned about was transparency, the planning process related to redevelopment in the city. And I think at that time, there were a number of issues related to transparency, and I believe in the years that I served, we corrected those issues, even though as a member of the council, we experienced a number of people that didn't feel the process was very transparent. But I'm particularly concerned about how the transparency of the planning process related to redevelopment of the collected properties at Brooks and Park Avenue in Old Town has gone. I'm curious how a plan that seemingly is incompatible and out of context with the existing neighborhood conforms to the master plan as was recommended by city staff. Is it simply a numbers game? This project is going to change the character of this Old Town neighborhood and impose burdens that are clearly foreseen and anticipated without any efforts to realistically address them. There are so many other issues and elements of the plan that do not seem to have been disclosed in several staff reports and recommendations, beginning with the issue of the historic elements at 15 and 9 Park Avenue and 201 Brooks. I'll enumerate these issues in writing later to support my testimony tonight. With that, I'll state that many in the community doubt the process has been fully transparent. This is the first time since I served 16 years on the council that I've actually participated in these issues from the other side. And I can see how concerned residents get the sense that this project was preordained before the process even started. So I think the council has some issues to deal with in terms of, and the city has some issues to deal with in terms of public trust of the process and faithfulness that there's faithfulness to full transparency on these issues. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'll see you guys at the book festival.
Thank you, Mike. And we'll look forward to your written submission. Do we have anybody else who'd like to testify on Zoom? Going once, going twice. Okay, wait, I do see one. Tech team, if you could bring up David Mullins, that'd be great. David, state your name, address, or neighborhood. Go right ahead.
Oh, hello.
Yep,
Hopefully
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Great. David Mullins. I live at the Gateway Apartments. And yeah, just quickly, I want to say I do enjoy the state legislative updates that have been in several sessions here. As just a citizen, thank you for that. And in that vein, I did want to throw in one kind of tenant housing related update, which was that legislation proposed by Delegate Wilkins that would have allowed municipalities and counties to enact just cause or good cause eviction legislation. Unfortunately, didn't make it through the committee chaired by Delegate Barve, who I did, appreciate that, he was recently honored in this chamber for doing, a lot for our city. But I did want to throw that out there, and we're hoping, those of us that, advocate for tenants are hoping that that'll get another run the next session. But then, yeah, just kind of following up on the last comment, I wish I had been able to make it to the Planning Commission meeting, but I commend them actually for going forward with a difficult decision in the housing in question there in Old Town, because I understand there is a crisis, but much like with the Spectrum Apartments, where again I wanted to come out and say I certainly am for this. We need the housing. I think we're all hopefully grown up enough that we can also understand this is nuanced, and I can also come in and say that it didn't feel great to hear that there's going to be no poor people thrown out as such a positive in a couple different moments. And I understand that there are exemptions to the set asides, and that it sounds like this is going to be one of those, and okay, but for that to be put out there as a don't worry, at least there's not going to be any Section 8 units or what have you. I think we just need a reminder that there's just, some people out there that already live in that part of town that we just need to think about how that would come off for them, and, whether that kind of discourse is appropriate, especially when we're celebrating diversity. I don't know if the good folks at Walnut Hub, look at socioeconomic diversity, but, it just seems relevant if we're going to be, saying that. But anyways, thank you for hearing me, and for allowing nuance in in this kind of discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Actually, I happened to look at the Walnut Hub methodology a little bit, and they do take that into consideration. But those are really important comments. I appreciate it. Anybody else on Zoom? If so, use the Zoom raise hand function. Okay, not seeing any. Thank everyone for their testimonies. Next, we have from the mayor and city council, and we're going to start with Jim.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot going on the past couple weeks, and I'll start with this past weekend. Had the opportunity to attend the 16th annual Bethany Day at Bethany Presbyterian Church. Although they have not been able to have it the past several years due to COVID, so it was the first time that they've been able to put this event on. I want to thank Senior Pastor Lee and all of the performers who really put on quite a show. I know there were a number of elected officials, including Secretary of State Lee, Councilmember Spiegel, the mayor were in attendance, a lot of county council folks as well. There was a classical music performance put on by a youth orchestra. There was a traditional drum performance put on by their senior Jangu team, which is a traditional drum. And there was a youth K-pop dance team, which was really fun, including goodness, it must have been a dozen kids up there, and really quite something. So it was really fun to be a part of that, despite the weather. But we got some really good Korean food, and it was a really nice date, and I really appreciate the opportunity to attend that. I was also able to stop by the City Employee Appreciation Luncheon. Wasn't sure I was going to make it, but I was able to come in and join the celebration and recognizing a number of the service anniversaries for the past several years due to COVID. Again, another opportunity now that the emergency has been lifted, that we're able to recognize our city staff for their many years, in some cases decades of service. It was a totally rad 80s theme. I did not have any 80s garb to pull out of the closet, unfortunately, or possibly fortunately. But it was great to see so many staff getting into the vibe. I want to congratulate our Employee of the Year, Christy King, from Kentland's Mansion. I may be stealing some thunder here, Tanisha, if I am. Sorry. And the Team of the Year, the Potomac Oaks Emergency Response Team. It was really fun just to see fellow employees really rallying behind each other and hearing 20, 30, 40 years of service and the applause that was in the space. So it was really great to be a part of that. On May 6th, I attended the ribbon cutting for the pedestrian bridge between the Rosemont neighborhood and the Casey Community Center. This was a brand new bridge, replacing one that had been taken down because it needed to be. So it was great to be there and celebrate with the community, and we had a little parade with some of the children who were a part of some of the programs over at Casey. And then that was followed by the Be Best Fest over at the Casey Center. It was a beautiful day for it. It's nice when the weather actually cooperates. Here's hoping for this Saturday, Mr. Mayor. So it was really nice to just be out and about the past couple weeks and really getting to enjoy the nice weather and be out with our community. So looking forward to several other things going on the next few weeks, and I hope to see you all out there. And that's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Jim. We'll go to Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also attended the Casey Pedestrian Bridge, which was a great day, and I had the opportunity to be with a very young resident who was very determined to cut that ribbon and would not leave until she could cut they gave her plastic scissors initially, bad move. She wanted the big scissors. So I appreciated her determination to cut the ribbon. Also participated in the Active Aging Expo on the 4th, and was able to join a drum circle, which I hadn't done before, which was pretty exciting. And also great exercise. So I appreciated all the movements. They were much better than I was, and I couldn't keep up, so I let those who were better at it continue. But the expo was a great day, and congratulations to staff for the work that they do to put that expo on, because it is when I got there in the afternoon and the parking lot was packed, and I heard it been flowing like that all day long. I'm not sure what the final numbers were, but I understand that it exceeded last year, so congratulations. Also attended the ribbon cutting for the new African International Market. It's a African grocery store that also serves food and groceries from Africa and the Caribbean. They also have fresh food in the refrigerator section. I saw pigskin. I saw fufu. I saw jollo rice. So lots of treats in there, right in the festival at Muddy Branch Shopping Center. So we are very helpful. This is their second location. We're very happy to welcome them to the city of Gaithersburg. And that is all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll go to Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, my colleagues covered a lot of ground already from our busy last 2 weeks. I was at most, if not all, of those events as well. And I'll just add congratulations to a handful of new businesses that have opened at different locations around the city. Council Vice President Henderson already mentioned the African International Market that we were able to attend the ribbon cutting for, and that was a great event. A few of us were able to attend the ribbon cutting at Shake Shack in Kentlands, which is now open, and Charlie Prime, a new restaurant at Rio, which just opened as well. So we wish them all well. Great to see businesses continuing to come to the city and thrive here. In addition to the other events that were mentioned, I also attended on May 6th an art gallery opening reception for the CCACC, the Chinese Culture and Community organization that works closely with the city and provides a number of social services and cultural programs for the community here in honor of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and it was a great opportunity to be with folks from the community, leaders of CCACC, artists, as well as elected officials at various levels of government who came out to show their support as well. So congratulations to them. I believe the exhibit continues to be open to the public for the next few weeks if anybody's interested. I'm sure you can find more information through the CCACC. In addition to the other events, I also attended the retirement party for Nancy Wild at Borough Park on May 12th. So we want to wish Nancy well and congratulate her. There was some debate about exactly how many years she had worked for the city, but it is many, many decades. And I understand that she will continue to work on a part-time basis for the city for the time being. But the work she's done in helping to lead the community museum and do so many other great things for our Parks, Rec, and Culture Department really deserves to be saluted, so we wish her the best. And then just wanted to wish all the moms and mother figures out there a belated Happy Mother's Day. Hope you had a wonderful celebration yesterday with family and friends, and that you got all the rewards that you deserve for the hard and thankless work of being a mom or mother figure. And I'm excited for the Gaithersburg Book Festival coming up this Saturday, and I have a formal announcement which I will read. Gaithersburg residents will cast their ballots for 3 city council members on Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. The city is conducting a hybrid election for 2023. All registered voters will receive a mail-in ballot application. Applications can be returned via United States Postal Service or dropped off at City Hall or completed electronically. 1 vote center will be located at the Activity Center at Borough Park for in-person voting. In addition, there will be 7 ballot drop boxes located throughout the city. Early voting session will be held at the Activity Center on Sunday, October 29th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The voting center will be open on Election Day, Tuesday, November 7th, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And for complete election information, you can go to www.gaithersburgmd.gov/elections or contact our elections clerk, Lauren Klingler, at 240-805-1087 or by email at cityelections@gaithersburgmd.gov. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. We'll go to Neil.
So when you get to go last from the mayor and council, you run out of things that you've been to that everybody else has already talked about. I have to say the pedestrian bridge got a good beta testing with all the people that crossed over it. I think it's going to be okay. The Active Aging Expo, I was there for a few minutes at the beginning, And I don't know how many people attended, but there were certainly a lot more vendors than I've seen in the last couple of years. So, and they all seemed very happy with what was going on. So it was a great event. And if you are aging and looking to be active, I'd recommend it next time around. And I did not only attend the ribbon cutting at Shake Shack, but I visited 2 later times that week, once for lunch and once to sample the custard for dessert. And I'll be back. I want to point out a couple of upcoming events. There is this book festival that Judd may refer to a couple of times upcoming in the meeting, and looking forward to it and hoping the weather is better than the current forecast. I'm jinxing this storm and hoping that means it'll be better than what the weather says today. Also, the day before, on Friday, the 19th, is Bike to Work Day in the DC region. We have 2 stops in the city of Gaithersburg, one in Kentlands in the morning from 7 to 9, and then one in the afternoon in Old Town. So hope to see you with your bikes there. And finally, I have an announcement relating to elections as well. As Ryan said, Gaithersburg residents will cast their ballots for 3 city council members on Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. Which 3? Well, first you have to pick up a packet. The packets were released on Thursday, May 11th. They can be picked up at City Hall by appointment or accessed on the city's election website. That's at gaithersburgmd.gov, and then click on Government and click on Election. There are 2 mandatory candidate training sessions you have. If you're running, you have to attend at least one. The first is on May 16th, Tuesday, which is tomorrow. And the second and last mandatory candidate training session will be held on Tuesday, August 15th. Deadline for candidates to file is Thursday, August 24th by 5 p.m. For additional information or to register for training, please contact Elections Clerk Lauren Klingler at 240-805-1087 or cityelections@gaithersburgmd.gov. For complete, I already told you the web place, so you're good there. Thanks.
Thank you, Neil. Everyone said everything, and I've been to I was at all these events too. So I'm just not going to say anything more other than it's kind of exciting that we cut the ribbon on 3 different restaurants, or opened 3 different restaurants over the past couple weeks: Shake Shack, Taquerian, and Charlie Prime. All good food. So it's a really good sign when people are investing in your community. I think it's awesome. And I'm looking over at our economic development team as I say that. I again wish Nate Bassett all of the best of luck in the world, and same with Nancy Wild. Appreciate both of their service very, very much. And last but not least, Gaithersburg Book Festival is on Saturday. It is coming up. Here comes our slide. All the information you could possibly want and more is at gaithersburgbookfestival.org. The event is free to attend and free to park, and it's fun for people of all ages and all different tastes. We have more than 135 different amazing authors coming to speak about their latest work and sign books. We have workshops for aspiring writers. We have exhibitors, a lot of food this year. I'm excited that staff tells me that there's been complaints before, not enough choices of food. I think we're getting there this year. We're getting there. And their books will be available on site from our bookseller, Politics and Prose, as well as used books available on site thanks to our partner, Friends of the Library, Montgomery County. So many great things, so many great authors. I'm not going to get into all that. I just want you to go take a look. And if you want to hear us really delve deep, go follow us. Go look at the Gaithersburg Book Festival Facebook page, where we've put out all kinds of different posts about different authors and such. But we hope to see you. It's a signature event for the city of Gaithersburg. C-SPAN will be here covering us all day. Not sure if they're broadcasting live or if it will be at a later date. We'll find that out. But it's going to be amazing. So please join us at the Gaithersburg Book Festival. And upcoming sessions, we will conduct a work session next Monday, May 22nd. You can participate the same way as you currently are, either in person or over Zoom. and we're going to receive an update on the Community Development Block Grant Emergency Assistance Program. And then the following week, the city offices will be closed on Monday, May 29th in observance of Memorial Day. And we will not have a work session on May 30th. The next regular session will be on Monday. No, that's not the right date.
February?
No, can't be. The next one's not going to be in February. The next one, I guess, is going to be June 5th.
Yes.
So that's the next regular meeting of the Mayor and Council, and we will move to from the city manager.
I'll yield my time this evening, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Then we will go to economic development update. Tom Lonergan Seeger.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it brief. Just wanted to recognize Montgomery College, which received a 5-year cooperative agreement award from NIST. I don't know if anybody saw this, to provide up to 250 student placements annually at its labs here in Gaithersburg. Almost $7.5 million also grants research opportunities for current faculty members, according to the college. The students who are selected with work, they work with research mentors, receive stipends, professional development, and mentoring. The NIST program is intended to increase the recruitment, retention, and graduation rates of undergraduate and graduate students pursuing STEM degrees with attention to historically marginalized groups. So wanted to mention that and thank them. Councilmember Spiegel, in addition to Charlie Prime, I was communicating today with Heather Madison from Peterson, who just wanted to mention that they're only doing dinner until the patio opens. The patio will be open soon. 90 inside, 100 additional seats outside. Brunch starts this weekend. I feel like I'm their PR spokesman, but I was mentioning to her while we were talking. But she also wanted to mention, speaking of an embarrassment of riches of restaurants, Miss Toya's Southern Kitchen will be opening in their estimation, and the former Burger BGR space by the end of the month. So I'll be looking for another ribbon cutting there. Nice. And the Red Door Escape Room, anybody been to one of those? That will be opening down there on the boardwalk next month.
Excellent. This is really exciting. I wanted to actually call everyone's attention to something I don't think it's come up here yet, but the mural on the side of the Barnes & Noble in Rio, which the Rio folks have said was partially inspired by our book festival. It's a girl reading, and you can see sort of different things coming, like imaginary things coming out of the book. It's beautiful, and I can't tell you what it meant to me to see that. I'm sure everybody feels the same way. It's what a way for them to sort of pay us some honor or I don't know. I don't even know what the right word is for it. Some tribute or something. But it's unexpected and wonderful. And so I did see. I've mentioned it to Heather, and I saw a couple of other people from Peterson to express my appreciation for them doing that. That's amazing. So I recommend it. Go to the parking lot between, or the little roadway between Target and Barnes & Noble. You can see on the right-hand side this mural. It's really beautiful.
Can't wait.
Thanks, Tom. So next we're going to get into budget. And I'm going to invite Janice Hartman, to our Director of Finance Administration, to lead us in our budget discussion.
Hi, good evening. So this is an ordinance to adopt the city budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, and levying an ad valorem tax on all accessible property within the city of Gaithersburg. A public hearing was advertised in the Washington Post on March 16th and was held on April 3rd. During the public hearing, the mayor and city council voted to close the record on April 26th. This ordinance establishes the city budget, which provides a complete financial plan, including anticipated revenues and proposed expenditures and transfers for the fiscal year 2024. The ordinance also institutes the ad valorem tax on all accessible property within the city of Gaithersburg, Maryland. The property tax rate remains the same as the prior year and is set at a rate of 26.2 cents on each $100 of assessed value of real property and 53 cents on each $100 of assessed value on personal property. There were some changes made to the proposed budget since the budget work session. In summary, the general fund revenue increased to $229,000 and operating expenses decreased $123,000, resulting in a decrease in the reappropriation of $353,000. In addition to the general fund changes, there were also changes to the CIP, stormwater, and asset replacement funds. I'd like to note that the CIP changes include additional external revenue of $171,600 and additional expenses of $807,000. The remaining CIP changes are transfers between projects and shifts in timing of expenses between fiscal years. A detailed list of these changes is included in the attachment titled Subsequent Events to the Proposed FY24 Budget. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have at this time on the ordinance or subsequent changes.
Thank you very much, Janice. Do we have any questions or comments? Lisa?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Janice, I just want to ask, in regards, it seems significant to me, in the police personnel, there's what seems like a significant reduction. Can you?
Yes, so all the personnel changes resulted from changes that happened to existing staff and vacancies since the introduction was first put together. And so for the police salaries, we did have a few longtime employees, officers retire. And so when that happens, an officer with less years of experience is promoted up, so they're at a lower step. And then that kind of trickles down, because as they are promoted up, somebody with less years of experience are promoted. And so there's a trickle down effect. And so the resulting is a salary decrease overall, and that takes into account the benefits and everything added on to that. So, but it's not any reduction in force or staff.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? Before we get to our motion, I just want to once again salute you and all staff involved in putting together the budget that reflects the priorities and directions of the City Council in excellent fashion. So, Ryan, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll echo that. I just wanted to observe this is the 16th city budget that I'll be voting on. I absolutely agree. The mayor said that a budget reflects the values of a community and a jurisdiction and a government. It's often been said that it is a moral document. And I think in our case, this budget has been worked on very hard to make sure that it reflects priorities on everything from environmental values to values in how we approach challenges in housing, to how we support those in need and continue to grow our support for those in need, to the more sort of bread and butter things that government has to do, like public works, parks, rec, and culture, public safety, and everything else that's in here. But you can't just sort of throw out lofty ideas and hope that the moral document somehow manages to get done. It really requires a lot of difficult and thoughtful technical work on the part of our staff to incorporate our public comments, to incorporate the vision of city leadership, and to make sure that it's aligned with the strategic plan that we've developed for the city. So I just wanted to salute everybody involved, the staff. I wanted to thank the public for the input that we did receive. And I just wanted to congratulate everyone for what I think is a really excellent, strong, sound budget. I will have some questions in the coming weeks about, how we're going to be addressing emergency rental assistance relief, which I know we're going to be addressing at the next work session, and some other more detailed things. But from the perspective of the completed budget, I just wanted to salute you all.
Thank you, Brian. Neil.
So we've had a number of discussions about the budget already, so I'm not going to go into any detail. I think it's great. I'd like to point out for the public and congratulate staff for the fact that in an inflationary environment, unlike many jurisdictions, we're not raising taxes. We're able to manage everything appropriately. So I think that's great, and it's definitely one of the values that the city has, is not to place an undue burden on our residents.
Jim.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to echo what Councilmember Harris said. That was actually one of the points that I wanted to make. And thank you, Janice and the team. not only are we not raising taxes, but you all make the process so easy for us as elected officials to understand, but also for the general public. There was a question of transparency raised earlier, and I think what's really wonderful about the way that the city operates and has always operated is the transparency that we show everything. It's explained well, it's summarized well, but all of the data is there. So, from Tanisha on down, thank you for that culture of transparency and for the public service that you do by making it as easy to follow as you do. This is only the second budget that I've gotten to that I will get to vote on, but moving on, jumping onto this moving train has been really easy to follow, and I thank you and the public, on behalf of the public. Thank you for that as well.
All right, would someone like to move the ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, I move the budget ordinance.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Carries 4-0. Thank you very much. And you are also doing the fee schedule.
So this next item is the resolution to adopt the fiscal year 2024 fee schedule. The proposed fee schedule, along with a summary of requested changes, was included in the proposed budget workbook, and changes were highlighted during the budget work session on April 10th. The FY24 list of fee schedule changes and schedule of fees can be found on your packet pages 82 and 98. Changes from FY23 fees are presented in the attachment FY24 fee schedule, proposed schedule changes, and reflect adjustments to the following programs: outdoor seating permit automation fee, Parks, Rec, and Culture facility rental fees, field use rental fees, Pleasant View Park community garden plot rental fees, Parks, Rec, and Culture membership fees, admission fees, and program fees, and finally, Public Works recycling fee. There have been no subsequent changes since the fee schedule was provided during the budget proposal. By adoption of this resolution, all fees, charges, fines, and forfeitures of the city will be established for fiscal year 2024.
Thank you, Janice. So here we do have a little indication of inflation. It does show itself here. But I do think, from my perspective, that the fee schedule is still very reasonable in all of these categories. Council members who'd like to, any questions or comments on this? Or would someone like to move the resolution?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
What is the automation fee for in the outdoor seating?
So for planning and code, there's an automation fee applied to all their permits, and this was one that had been left out from previous years, so it's really just getting that one included.
So why do we have automation fees at all?
So that was to help us go online and really, I think, credit cards, and is there additional help? Because this was before my time.
That pretty much sums it up, but Brian, if you have more than that, it is the process to move the payments and processing online as well as credit card
And
fees.
it helps cover credit card fees, which are not insignificant.
Yeah, I just, I don't know why we didn't just bake it into the fees themselves, so that rather than keep it separate and making that look more complicated. The reason I bring it up is actually it was a discussion over the weekend with one of our county council members that talking about a proposal at the Department of Liquor Control at the county, where they were thinking of adding a credit card fee to credit card transactions at liquor stores, which would seem to encourage people to pay for their liquor by cash, which would lead to other issues. So it seemed like a bad idea. This one just seemed like it made it more complicated, but I'm not going to hold up the works on that basis. I just think it's cleaner if you just bake it into the number and have one number rather than one number plus a surcharge. It's just a philosophical issue, so.
Duly noted.
Okay. Ryan.
Not to nitpick on this one specific issue, but are applicants still able to sort of bring in a paper permit application for these sorts of things to City Hall? And if so, I wonder if that's the distinction, because we're still accepting both kinds of applications. Maybe not.
I think the initial goal was transparency when it was, obviously I don't think any of us were around when it was initially adopted, but my understanding from historical accounts was it was sort of a step toward transparency to show the fee. And I don't believe it's different based on how you process it. It's charged on all permit fees, and it helps for not just, the immediate programming, but at the beginning, we were planning to move things online and needed to build a source to do that.
So I'll note for the public, there's not a representative from Planning and Code here to really speak directly to this. And this is a resolution. If the council would like Planning and Code to get back to us with a specific rationale for this fee, then we can do that.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yeah.
it is, again, not a new fee. It's already in existence. It's just that particular separate permit was left off. when
Right.
it was-
This
when
is
it was-
just housekeeping.
This is cleanup.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll leave it up to the council members if they want to request that.
No, I was just curious. It's not worth any more time than we've already given it.
Okay.
I'll move the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Carries 4-0.
Thank you. And I would just like to make sure I thank Tanisha for all her work on the budget, and then also Nate as well, and everyone in the city, because it's a huge city effort. So
It's a
thank
huge
you all.
effort. We thank you, and thank you to Nate, and thank you for leaving us with the gift of a complete budget. Thank you. We appreciate that.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Janice. Okay.
I told him earlier, by the way, that if we don't pass the budget tonight, does that mean we get to make him stay?
That is a strategy.
Sean Stevens, I see you on the way up here from our Public Works. We're going to talk about a couple of resolutions, I think.
Sean had a milestone anniversary the other day.
Congratulations.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The resolution I bring before you tonight is to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract for the Morris Park Playground replacement and Morris Park Playground design and equipment replacement. The playground equipment at Morris Park is 20 years old and has reached the end of its useful service life. Due to its age, condition, and safety considerations, it was scheduled for replacement in the FY23 budget. Public Works staff wishes to utilize Sourcewell contract 010521-LTS with PlayPower LT Farmington Incorporated for the playground design, equipment purchase, and installation at Morris Park, located at 520 Summit Hall Road, Gaithersburg, Maryland 20877. PlayPower has submitted the proposal for this work at Morris Park in the amount of $275,000. Staff recommends entering into a contract with PlayPower LT Farmington Incorporated in the amount of $275,000 for the Morris Park playground design and equipment replacement. The State of Maryland's Department of Natural Resources Community Parks and Playgrounds program will be providing $275,000 towards this project via a grant. There are sufficient funds in the asset replacement fund. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Sean. Questions, comments?
Just
Sure.
a brief comment, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to note this DNR Community Parks and Playgrounds program is a program of funding designated just for municipalities, as I understand it. A couple of years ago, there was an attempt to change the state law so that counties could raid the fund, and I would imagine there wouldn't be much left for municipalities afterwards. So you can see from this agenda item how important this fund is to smaller jurisdictions around the state, including Gaithersburg. So this is going to cover basically the entire cost of this project. And it's important for us to continue to protect that program funding. That's all. Just wanted
You want to
to
move the
observe that.
resolution?
I'm happy to move the resolution.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Carries unanimously.
Okay, the second resolution I bring before you tonight is to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract for asphalt paving and concrete services. Through the Asphalt Path Management Program in Public Works, the city has identified the needed construction services in city parks and right-of-ways for asphalt paving and concrete services. Public Works would like to utilize the Prince William County Public Schools contract R-BB-22036-2 with Finley Asphalt and Sealing LLC, doing business as Finley Asphalt and Concrete. This contract was competitively bid within the last 3 years, and the contractor is willing to extend these contract prices to the city of Gaithersburg. Finley has submitted quotes for the work to be performed in FY23. The three sites we will be performing these services in FY23 are 1, West Deer Park to Rosemont Avenue Asphalt Path, located off of West Deer Park Road. all the asphalt paths in Travis Park, and all the asphalt paths in Duval Park. The contract term for this contract will be for the remainder of FY23 with 4 automatic renewals for the fiscal years 24, 25, 26, and 27. Each year of this contract will have a not-to-exceed amount of $200,000. Staff recommends entering into a contract with Finley Asphalt and Concrete with an annual not-to-exceed amount of $200,000 for the current and future fiscal years. There are sufficient funds in the Capital Improvements Fund. Do you have any questions for me?
Jim.
I think it's right. This may be the first time that I've seen us reference an out-of-state competitively built. I can't speak. Sorry, competitively bid contract. Thank you. Is that something that we have done regularly? I know I've seen it with the county. I know I've seen it with some other close ones. Is that something that's a normal?
We have used out-of-state contracts before. It doesn't happen very frequently, but we felt that the pricing in this contract was very competitive compared to what we would have got if we'd gone out to bid at this point. And Finley, we've got a good working relationship with them, as they did the asphalt paths in Washingtonian Woods a couple years ago, and they're interested in working with the city, so they wanted to extend the offer to utilize this contract.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Does someone want to move the resolution?
I'll move it.
Okay, we have a motion. Any second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you, Sean. Now we got a few with Ruth Lutero, our Director of Information Technology. I see she's brought backup with her.
Yes, I bought reinforcement. Good evening, Mayor and Council Member, City Manager Tanisha Reddy, and Attorney Frank Johnson. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm joined by IT staff. I wanted to call them out here. Brian Helms, everybody knows him, right? He's our division manager. I have our network engineer here who helped me with the Microsoft contract, Microsoft codes. I came before you tonight with 4 resolutions. Before I read, I want to give some sort of a background. We have 4 resolutions tonight. One of the resolution is for the Microsoft Enterprise licensing agreement, and there are 3 other resolutions which is tied or part of the Police Technology Refresh Project, which we collaborated with the Police Department. We have Lieutenant John Leach here with us tonight, and also Mark Scaviti from Public Works. The scope and the background of these 3 resolutions actually covers major technologies that provide critical functionality to the police department to perform their job and keep our community safe. The hardware will be, or in some cases, are far beyond the planned replacement date. It's beyond its full life expectancy. So I'll go over those resolutions. The first one here, actually, it's the replacement of public safety radios. The police and the city police and the information technology department have a significant police technology refresh planned in FY24. Major technologies covered by this refresh are the radios, the vehicle camera system, body-worn cameras, ruggedized laptop or talkbooks, and taser. These technologies are currently in use and provide critical functionality to the police department. As I mentioned earlier, that this hardware will be at, or in some cases, far beyond its planned replacement date and useful life expectancy. The IT department staff have carefully planned this project to replace all significant vehicle technologies simultaneously. Simultaneous replacement will provide meaningful operation and cost efficiency to the city, as vehicles will only have to be removed from operation once for a single set of combined installation activities. Montgomery County provides and runs the back-end technical infrastructure for the public safety radio system at no cost, ensuring radio interoperability between agencies operating in Montgomery County. The police department follows the Montgomery County standard and utilizes officers and vehicles public safety radio. Motorola is the only vendor that can sell the radios supported by Montgomery County. Staff issued a request for quote to Motorola for 76 APX 600 officer radios and 76 APX 6500 vehicle radios. Motorola responded with a cost of $1,023,505.96. This cost came lower than the FY24 budgetary estimate of $1,090,000. This lower cost is slightly offset by the police Topwork mobile technology computer costs coming in approximately $11,000 higher than its budgetary estimate. Staff recommend awarding this purchase to the only provider, Motorola Technologies, who provided the only quote of $1,023,505.96 via Montgomery County Contract 1029539. Staff recommend buffering this by $10,000 for a total not to exceed an amount of $1,033,505.96. Any question that you might have for me or for us?
Jim first, then Lisa.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ruth. My question is the rationale for the buffering.
We're expecting that sometimes it's not exact or changes in the cost. That's, the buffering that we put in there, just in case we have a wiggle room to, if there are some changes to the cost. Do you want to explain
It's
a little bit
a
on the
common
buffering?
thing.
Yeah.
Just a room to.
But
Go ahead.
the radios
Contingency.
themselves are around $6,000 or so, so it's not for like an extra radio or so.
Okay.
There's a lot of accessories involved.
Gotcha.
A lot of accessories and a lot of officers in a lot of different situations.
Mhm.
So that's really what that's for. $10,000 on a little over $1 million. It's
Yeah.
about 1%. So.
No, absolutely. It was more just a function of, if it was a quote versus an estimate, and that was why I wanted to make sure, because it could be like, all right, well, where's that 10,000 going? So thank you.
Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate your approach to doing this,
One
big
time.
bang implementation, particularly because it's more cost effective. Has it been tested? How do you know that works?
Done this.
Yeah. Actually, we are following the standards of Montgomery County, so this is something that's already had been used by the county.
Okay.
So basically what we're doing is taking out the vehicle on the street, putting all this equipment, putting the dock in there, the MDTs or the tough book, all at the same time,
Okay.
and including the radio. So this is not something that we define the specification, but basically it's the specification of the county. So that's definitely tested.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, I had kind of a similar question to the council vice president, and you guys are the experts, so I'm going to defer to you all. But I guess when you're talking about doing a simultaneous installation of multiple different technologies in a vehicle, I understand the operational efficiencies. I certainly understand the cost efficiencies. I guess, is there some additional risk that because you're doing multiple things to a vehicle all at once, that there could be a problem once the work is done? Again, that's more of a rhetorical question. So I don't know that we need to get into all of that, but I just kind of just as a layperson who's not, familiar with all these sort of technical details, whether that's something that is of concern. But obviously, I'm sure you all have weighed that, and you have safeguards in place and testing in place every time you're doing these installations.
And also think of it like there are separate equipment put together, right? So you have the radio, you have the dock, and then you have the MDD, then you have the in-car camera system. So all of that are tested separately and put together into the vehicle.
Right.
So, and of course, before the vehicle goes out, it goes, that will be tested as part of the installation. It's a normal process for technology when you implement it. You test it individually, then you put it together, and then you do an end-to-end testing. So,
thank you.
Someone want to move the resolution?
I move the resolution.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 4-0.
okay, then the next resolution I have here is I just touch on the installation portion of the project. So I'm not going to read the first two paragraphs because it's the same as the first resolution. So the third paragraph here says the city's current vehicle installation or the upfitting or the upfitting services. The vendor is Frontline Mobile Technology LLC. They provided a code for $154,811 for the one upfitting service required to install the vehicle systems associated with this project, and to provide the Panasonic Toughbook ruggedized laptop vehicle docks. Given the variable nature of upfitting work, staff recommend planning for one-time upfitting costs not to exceed $165,000. Well, Public Works also expects to spend up to $167,000 with Frontline Mobile Tech LLC in FY24 as part of the established annual vehicle replacement process, and up to $167,000 annually in FY25 through FY28. This resolution will result in a new contract for the one-time upfitting associated with the Police Technology Refresh Project and an amended multi-year contract for regular annual fitting service for FY24 to FY28. The combined FY24 not to exceed amount is for $332,000, and the ongoing annual not to exceed amount for FY25 through FY26 is $167,000, subject to future budget approvals and appropriations. Staff recommends awarding these contracts to Frontline Mobile Tech LLC via the Howard County Service Contract 4400003685. Any questions you have for us?
Questions, comments?
Come on.
Okay, someone want to move the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Carries 4-0. Next.
One of the resolution, we're pulling this out. We're coming back in 2 weeks for this one. This is the resolution related to the MDTs, the mobile data technology. So I'm not going to go over that right now. We'll be back in 2 weeks. RT, the last one is okay. This one is the city has a 3-year Microsoft Enterprise agreement that is expiring this coming June 30th for the purchase and maintenance of operating systems for desktop computers, servers, and additional software products such as the suite of Office program. This resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a new 3-year agreement with an annual amount not to exceed $249,000. The city is in phase 1 of its 3-phase project to transition to Microsoft 365 platform. The completion of phase 1, which includes email migration into Microsoft 365 Cloud and transition to Microsoft Teams for video conferencing, is expected by September 2023. Subsequent phases of this project include the implementation of advanced functionality like the SharePoint and Power Platform. The annual not to exceed amount of $249,000 allows for variation in the licensing due to potential one-time project cost, future licensing of advanced features, and variation in license quantity due to staffing fluctuations. As with the previous 3-year Microsoft Enterprise agreements, costs are based upon pricing from the State of Maryland agreement with Microsoft. HSI International is Microsoft's large accounts reseller for Maryland's Enterprise agreement, and each of the city's previous Enterprise agreement has been administered through HSI. The age of the state contract precludes the city from using it directly, so staff sought and received a waiver from the city manager to continue to use the state contract. The state contract provides an 8.25% discount on subscription licenses and 6.25% discount for software assurance renewals based on Microsoft Level D pricing. Level D pricing is the discount Microsoft gives to a commercial customer with 25,000 or more licenses, but it extends to government customers. The annual cost of this agreement will not exceed $249,000. Funds for the initial year of the agreement were approved in the operating budget for FY24. Funds anticipated to be spent in FY25 and FY26 are subject to budgeting and appropriation. So, any question?
Ryan.
Just a point of clarification. I couldn't hear if you said 8.25% discount or 18.
18.
Yeah, the written material said 18 and then 16.25 discount for the software renewal.
Yeah.
So, okay,
18.
just wanted to confirm that was the number. Okay, great. Thank you.
Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ruth, this is probably more of a comment. Maybe the brain surgery is hard, and I think understanding Microsoft contract comes right under that. Microsoft has a tendency to change the names of their products midstream. So I'm wondering, as you ride the state contract, are they keeping up? If you're going in for Power Platforms, for instance, and a product under that platform, let's call it Power BI. That's what they call it today at X pricing. Does the state contract take into account those name switches that occur, and maybe pricing that occurs changes as well?
The way we itemize we have a M365 G3 license. Okay. So the G3 license actually includes your Microsoft Office Outlook, then the SharePoint, right, and the Office products, the SharePoint, Teams, and there are other capability that's included in the Power Platform. Right. In the Power Platform, we have the Power Apps, which allow people to build application with less coding, right? You probably know that for sure. And then we have also the Power Automate, which is the robotic process automation. So if you have some processes there that you want to automate, the capability is available there. Now, the G3 license doesn't really say Power BI, right? I think it doesn't. Right. It doesn't actually say that. But what Rick is that I can call in Rick to explain how we added those additional licenses. For instance, Power BI.
Okay.
We buy one so that we can lock in the price. Correct, Rick? You want
Yes,
to
that's
explain?
correct.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
explain. He helped me go through all the different licenses that we need. I'll let you explain.
So to your question about whether or not we've seen them switch up the names and switch up the price mix, we haven't seen that happen. How the Maryland State contract is structured to account for that, I honestly can't say. I'm not familiar. But I will say we haven't seen them have us purchase, say, Microsoft 365 G3 and then decide they want to change it to another name and change the pricing based off that. But we can certainly look and see how that's accounted for in the state contract. But off the top of my head, I'm not certain.
Okay, so things like, for example, their database attached to the Power Platform environment was, I can't remember the old name, now called Dataverse, with a different price schedule. Midstream. So just take a look at the products that you're acquiring and just make sure those are current. Those are the current projects.
Right.
They're
No,
a
it's
tricky
good.
bunch.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, it's very complex, pricing models
Right.
and things like
Right.
that. We actually, we got some lesson learned from Montgomery County.
Okay.
We met with their CTO and to understand how they handle the pricing, and they help us also talk to Microsoft representatives.
Good, okay.
Which we never had before. Rick worked with HSI, which is the reseller, but we also had the Microsoft representative.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Jim.
Thank you, Rick.
No, we're good. Thank you.
Oh, Ryan.
I just had a quick follow-up question. In the past, our software licensing agreements have had a provision that was sort of an employee benefit for our staff to be able to buy their own personal, copy of the Office suite for themselves for a discount. I'm just curious whether that still goes on and whether our staff still has that option under our new agreements or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've changed it. It used to be that you could purchase, it was the Microsoft Home Use Program, a perpetual copy of Office at a discount. They've gotten rid of that. Now it's a flat 30% discount that is offered to staff. You just have to use your city email address. I will say that discount is not greater than one might be able to find on their own, however. So they still have the program. It's just shifted a bit into how it functions.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Someone want to move the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Carries 4-0.
Mr. Mayor, can I just make I don't know if it's a point of order, but it's a question more from Frank. Do we need to table the resolution that was put on the agenda that we're not voting on?
You don't have to. If this was a matter of a public hearing, yes, there may be some reason to specifically postpone to a future date. You would have that flexibility, but just as an agenda item, that can simply be pulled from the agenda and brought back at a later time.
Thank you.
All right, so,
Last one.
yeah, last one, Tom Lonergan Seeger.
And Sharon Disk.
And Sharon Disk, okay. Bonus.
And Dennis Enslinger.
And Dennis Enslinger.
Okay, let me
If needed.
pull up the,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. While Sharon Disk pulls up a PowerPoint that she's going to share, I'll quickly read the resolution of the mayor and council authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute an agreement for the purchase of the property at 8 and 12 South Summit Avenue here in Gaithersburg. Whereas the city manager has recommended that the mayor and council of the city of Gaithersburg purchase the property located at 8 and 12 South Summit Avenue for municipal use, including but not limited to offices and work areas for city staff. And whereas the property at 8 South Summit consists of 13,388 square feet of unimproved land, and the property at 12 South Summit consists of 25,707 square feet of land improved by a office building, comprised of 66,000 square feet, both of which are owned by Longacre 2 and Longacre 3 LLC. In short, as the city has been evaluating the city's current and future office facility conditions and space requirements, the estimated cost of renovating existing space did lead to consideration of alternatives, and staff did determine that the purchase of an existing building would better meet the size needed to accommodate administrative functions of the city. Simultaneously, we, Sharon Disk and I and others, had been engaged in conversation with the owner-managers of that building at 12 South Summit Avenue. It was a pretty common conversation, frankly, for Sharon and I, meaning about the struggles that the owner has had in tenanting the building. Like so many Class B and C office properties, double-digit vacancy rates were a problem for them, and they would reach out very routinely to look for leads, look for incentive programs, and that's when conversations started to go along with the owner about how perhaps we could work on each other's issues together, and from there Sharon will take us through those conversations.
Yes. So now we'll actually have a chance to look at some images related to what Tom just introduced. So our project description: land and building acquisition, 8 South Summit and 12 South Summit with the building. Planning, design, repair, renovation of the existing building for city administrative offices, and public outdoor space enhancements. Here's the location. The blue pin shows 8 and 12 South Summit. The vacant land is adjacent to the tracks, and the building fronts Old Town Avenue and South Summit Avenue. The red pin represents our current location where we are tonight at City Hall. Here's the main entrance of 12 South Summit. This is taken from approximately the CSX Railroad crossing. You can see it has the rather grand entrance right there. Building size in total of 66,000 square feet. And here is the facade on Old Town Avenue, and to the left you can see the new council chambers. So the proximity of the two buildings creates kind of a government compound. And here's a view of 8 South Summit from the entrance of 12 South Summit, looking back to the garage. That tower is the pedestrian entrance to the garage, and then you can see the pedestrian bridge over the railroad tracks. Approximate center of the photo. The land area is 13,388 square feet. And here's a view of the pedestrian accommodation across the vacant property. As this is privately owned, there have been no enhancements to actually create a pedestrian-friendly path. It is pretty much just a well-worn area between the garage and the train station. Pre-pandemic, you could see regular flow of people through there. So our public objectives in this acquisition would be provide for adequate public services, invest in adaptive reuse of a Class B office building with rising vacancy, further neighborhood revitalization and sustainability objectives, and then create an opportunity to convert a long vacant parcel into a civic plaza and improve pedestrian access between the parking garage and train station. Our basic site location requirements, we wanted a location within the city's historical center, had to have physical capacity and characteristics to accommodate our needs, served by public transit, proximate to the city council chambers and police department at 16 South Summit, sufficient parking, and a neighborhood appropriate for targeted public investment. This location is in a Maryland enterprise zone, a sustainable community, and a priority funding area. These are all necessary when attracting grant funds, too. Functionality, the advantages of 12 South Summit. This allows for co-location of staff responsible for various public-facing components of the development plan review process. We currently have people spread between City Hall and Public Works. This also, by consolidating, reduces planned improvements needed to Public Works at the Rabbit Road facility. The building could provide for additional conference rooms and it allows the city to reduce third-party storage fees because it adds on-site storage. Has the potential relocation of other city functions such as community services, and it takes advantage of the existing city-owned structured parking with 200 spaces presently assigned to the building. Here we have a comparison of, I called it the investment considerations, stay or move. So if we were to stay at City Hall, that would be just a renovation. It's only for 27,393 square feet. There is zero storage on site. The estimated cost is just over $10 million, or a unit cost of $371.99 per square foot. If we move, then we have acquisition and renovation costs, but the facility increases to 58,988 square feet of usable space. So that's a 215% increase, or 215% of the other. We have the on-site storage, and then the cost of acquisition and renovation is estimated at $21 million. That is based on an internal estimate prepared by Public Works of what the renovation costs would be, plus the addition of $7 million for acquisition.
Go ahead.
I think the move option also sort of, the slide doesn't reflect it, but it also includes the fact that we would still have the existing City Hall as well. So depending on what we ultimately end up doing with it, and obviously there would still be maintenance costs depending on what we did with it, but it's really 27,000 square feet versus like 90,000 square feet if you look at it that way, right?
Yeah, we are not losing assets here.
Right.
Yes, the pie grows. Okay, so you can see at the bottom line there is the comparison of the unit cost. $371.99 per square foot at City Hall, and we remain in a facility that does not accommodate the organization's needs, or $284.80 per square foot with the move and renovation to 12 South Summit.
So does that include the cost of acquiring the building, that cost per square foot? So if I pull that out, you're probably closer to $200 a square foot for just the renovation piece.
$237.33 is the estimate. And those are estimates. We did not get actual quotes.
Sure. So you're saying that to renovate the existing City Hall is fantastically more expensive per square foot than it is in the new building because of the age of and other factors in the building.
In fact, that is what primarily prompted the consideration of a move, was the extraordinary cost of renovating.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Here are the general terms of the acquisition. We had an appraisal done that came in at $7.7 million. The assessed value is just over $7 million, and the purchase price is $7 million. The seller is to manage the building for an additional 24 months post-closing. The seller would be responsible for building operating costs, including utilities, insurance, and routine maintenance. There's less disruption to the existing tenants. It reduces the purchase price for the city. And then the building remains occupied during the city's planning, design, and procurement process. Buildings have a tendency to go into decline if you're not using them. So in this case, professional management remains in place, but what we've done is we've taken that net income opportunity for the current owner and converted that into a discount for us and revenue for them. Next steps are a 90-day due diligence period, then transfer of ownership, space needs and service co-location analysis, public engagement for design of the parcel, the empty parcel as a civic plaza, design of building modifications, then renovation and construction, and eventually move in. And then, as Councilmember Spiegel pointed out, we still have the asset at 31 South Summit. So general criteria for determining future use: compatibility with adjacent existing amenities, the playground, the picnic shelter, the courts, the concert pavilion, the green space. We'd use public engagement to determine the future of the building. And the timing for that determination would be 2+ years. And after that, any questions?
Ryan?
This is exciting. And I'm going to support it. This is the structure of how we're going to pay for the purchase. This is a cash purchase consistent with our pay-as-you-go philosophy. And I saw that in the summary of the budget, there's some money that's sort of shifted over to be able to make this available for the cash purchase. I don't know if it's a question for Tanisha or for you all, but maybe.
I think you answered it.
Confirm everything I just said was accurate.
I can confirm that is accurate.
Okay,
yes.
very good. Thank you.
Yes.
So in terms of the additional $14 million to renovate the building and put it into shape, do we think that there are some outside sources of significant funding for that?
Oh, we do. Yes, it's our intention to pursue grant opportunities for that expense.
Do we have any idea of what order of magnitude that the opportunity there might be?
Well, on the one hand, it would depend on the level of support we get from our partners in Annapolis. Should we reach out for support through the state during the next general session? But Sharon and I were just reviewing some other potential state opportunities, potential federal opportunities, through what they used to call earmarks. It's a little early to estimate what the magnitude might be, but I think there is an opportunity for us to capture a significant portion of the renovation cost through other sources.
All right, and one of the reasons I asked is that from the lobbyist discussion, they were a little concerned that the money might not be as free-flowing next year as it was this past session. So we want to get our ask in early and often.
Absolutely.
We share that concern.
Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. This is exciting. I think the opportunity to get two buildings adjacent to each other, adjacent to City Hall, I mean, is really fortunate. And I think the opportunity to co-locate a number of our services that have been spread throughout the city, knowing that we've been spending money to store things and being able to bring those in, I think all of those make a ton of sense, and kind of creating this municipal complex at the heart of Old Town it makes fiscal sense, it makes philosophical sense, and as Ryan said, I will definitely support the resolution.
So in Philadelphia, there's a giant statue on the top of the City Hall. Are you thinking of something like that here as well?
A giant book.
Giant book.
Yeah.
Excellent.
A cell tower.
Oh, there is revenue.
I know, that's why I was
Yes.
making a joke, but yeah.
Two of the leases will remain in place for a few years. The cell tower lease and the Montgomery College lease, which are helpful for the city. No,
Yeah.
no statute, sorry.
So this opportunity came to us unexpectedly, and it made sense from many standpoints. You guys just made the case in terms of fiscal sense, but also in terms of our space needs. The current City Hall that we're in right now, I forget, what is it, 50 years old at this point? I'm not talking about the house part of it. I know that's older, but I think it's 40 or 50 in terms of the actual addition that's the main part of City Hall. And it was constructed and conceived when Gaithersburg was not even half the size that it currently is. And our staff, while we still have, I think, a very lean staff, it's grown. It's grown naturally because we have to provide services to more people. So even if the dollar amount per square foot, the unit price per square foot was close for renovating this city hall, that still doesn't really solve the space needs, and not only for the current city but for the future. So I think from that sense, it really was good fortune knocking at our door. It's also an opportunity for the city to further invest in Old Town Gaithersburg, which we have consistently done, and I think there are other opportunities for in other properties that we own around the area where there could be future investment. But we this is a really good opportunity, I think, for a number of reasons, and if I had a vote, I would certainly be supporting this resolution. So I'm going to put it to the council now. What's the pleasure of the council?
I move the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just looked over at Zoom to see if Dennis.
Dennis is good.
Okay, good. Okay, so we thank you guys very much. There's a lot of work that went into this, and there's a whole negotiation that happened here, which is why the negotiation largely did not take place in public view as is appropriate. But as soon as we were able to, here we are, and I'm excited about the presentation. Thank you guys for putting it together. Frank, from the city attorney.
I don't have anything else tonight. I will also yield my time.
Okay. Anything from any other staff? And I'm looking on Zoom. I'm not seeing anything. Okay. Well, as we mentioned, we have the book festival on Saturday. Hope everyone will join us. Let me just go back to our announcements here and make sure I capture all of the upcoming sessions. So next week we have our work session on the Community Development Block Grant Emergency Assistance Program. That's Monday, May 22nd. We do not have a meeting the week of Memorial Day, but we will have our Memorial Day service on I think it's on May 30th. And then the next regular meeting, the Mayor and Council will be on
June 5th.
Monday, June 5th. Yes. Okay. Until then, let's do great things, Gaithersburg. We are adjourned.